Hello and welcome to the Scoutcast. We've had a glimpse of the way the season could unfold. Penalty takers certainly look key and some new faces to the Premier League have impressed. My name is Joe.
My name's Az.
My name's Simon.
Welcome Az, and welcome Simon. For those that don't know, myself and Az have never won FPL. Never in our career. You haven't, have you? No,
I've got close. No, I didn't.
Simon has won a FPL in 2014-15, I think it was. So we have an illustrious guest, and certainly someone who has a better history than we do. Az, what's on the show?
And not to stroke Simon's ego too much, but he's also remained consistently quite good. Whereas a lot of people, after you'd win it, I think would sort of kind of give up, because where can you go from there? But Simon's taken the challenge on each year. So yeah, very impressive. So what we're going to talk about, we're talking about the Manchester clubs. Who do we bring in? Who makes way? Two big teams coming in with United and City with fixtures. United with a great run of fixtures as well. So I think a lot of people are looking to get at least one of them in. We look at Chelsea's first game week where they beat Brighton. Boo, unfortunately. And Everton and the new look midfield look really solid. We've frisked the next four fixtures. I'm going to pick a differential. Joe didn't get so lucky with Ali, super sexy Deli Ali last week. And then we're going to talk about our transfer captains and do our team reveals. And like you said, Joe, Simon's here, won FPL in 2014-15. He said he hasn't been on the Scoutcast in, 4 or 5 years? That's crazy. Yeah. Grown a beard in the time. You're like Castaway.
Well, like I said, I grew it especially for the Scoutcast. So,
Yeah, good.
Perhaps,
we do encourage all our guests to have
Perhaps if we'd have had Simon on the show more often, we've had a slightly better past few years with some advice. Before we get tucked into the show, let's see how we got on in game week 1. Broadly similar scores, but as you came top with 65, I'll put your team up. Just for the benefit of those listening on the podcast: Ryan, Walker-Peters, Davis, Alexander-Arnold at the back, Bissouma, Salah, Aubameyang, Salah captain by the way, Havertz, Pereira, Ings and Werner. And then you got Nyland, the non-showing Vinagre, Mitchell. I've kind of Frenchified him. Mitchell, as I should call him. And then Davis, the other one, the Villa one. Tell us about your game week. Couple of scorers, but yeah, it's all about Salah, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I deserve to be top. I mean, it's a miracle I'm top of the three of us with my team. I mean, yeah, I made a load of. I don't want to be that guy who says, "Oh, I had this player and that player," but the team that I talked about on here and on Black Box as well would have scored a lot higher. I had Dean in it and Gabriel, who I was saying, and Callum Wilson. And the team I've ended up with, I'm not that happy with. I mean, basically, I decided to abandon all my plans to try and find a way to get a Chelsea midfielder in. So Simon, as a Chelsea fan, will be talking to us about how great Havertz was and how wrong I am for thinking it was one of the worst debuts I've ever seen in my life, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, you look at my team, it's just a Salah show. 2 players, scoring more than 6 points. Werner getting an assist with 5. But Aubameyang, Salah, if I hadn't captained Salah, then I'd have been in big trouble. And I've got problems. I mean, my main thing was I didn't want to make many defensive transfers. And my defence is already looking really, really suspect. And because I'm 4 at the back, I don't have many places to turn. So I'm a bit concerned going forward, but top of the pile, so enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, above average. I'm second with 55. The key difference there, you could see it. I captained Aubameyang, I didn't captain Salah, so there's 13 points. So for Aubameyang and Salah owners, if you went for Aubameyang, you're 13 points down. If you went for Salah, you're 13 points up. So that's the way it's turned out. I'm actually bit different to you. I feel quite optimistic about a lot of the players I've got. They all showed up. Well, the ones I wanted to showed up anyway. And apart from St. Maximin, I'm still not sure about him. I'm not sure whether he's going to look great but not get me any FPL points. But he's against my team Brighton next, so who knows. But yeah, I've got Ryan in a 4-4-2 with Robertson and Alexander-Arnold. I'm really glad I've got Robertson there because it's good to get an assist. I went for Dyer in the end for Spurs because I did like the 5 million category, the price point there for defenders, and so it transpired. It is a brilliant price point, except I happened to get one of the ones who didn't get it. So obviously James for Chelsea was one of the standouts. You're looking at Sace for Wolves as well. It's a really good category. And so, yeah, Dyer...
Oh, you're paying, Joe.
Yeah, he's moving on, but I'm quite happy to have him for the time being. Walker-Peters, I'm okay with. He got me 1 point. His problem is also his benefit as an FPL manager. He looked very attacking. He almost got an assist, but he did almost get sent off, and he looks absolutely diabolical for the chances of a clean sheet for Southampton. So I'm not sure I'm going to get there. I'm not going to play him every week. It's just a 4.51. I'm hoping just to play Dyer, Robertson, Alexander-Arnold most weeks in a 3-4-3 or thereabouts. And so, yeah. Souček, Aubameyang, Salah and St. Maximin. I was spoken about St. Maximin. Souček, though, I was impressed. He did exactly what he said. He didn't score, though. But he had 3 good chances, almost scored. Player I'm happy to have. I think he's been underpriced still. Che Adams, Southampton, he could stay for a while. I'm not sure about him at the moment. Werner, very happy with him. Got an assist. And then somehow, even with a minuscule bench with Walton, Basuma, Mitchell and Martial, I went for, I still managed to get bench points somehow from Mitchell. So I was trying to avoid bench points and I got them. I just note that from the big change from last week was I had Ali and Mitrovic, and as soon as I heard that Souček was available, I reverted back to plan A, which was many weeks before, which was Souček and Martial instead. So Martial is in place. Yeah, that's the way I'm shaping up. Simon, you're just behind. What have we got here? 49. So yeah, very, very, very similar. Yeah, tell us about your game week.
Yeah, so not the best start. 49 points, which is I was surprised to see that was almost bang on average. The average was 50. So yeah, pleasantly surprised. I mean, my big concern, going into the new season, obviously, was that I was going to peak too soon, and I'm obviously relieved that hasn't happened. So mission accomplished. But the obvious flaw was not having Salah, and I'm not surprised. I think.
Yeah, I was looking at your team thinking there's someone missing from there.
Yeah. I mean, you can never be surprised when Salah scores a load of goals. I did think that maybe I could make it through to sort of game week 3 or 4 without him, and then reassess there, because I think it was a little bit unfortunate, maybe, that he got 2 penalties and a hat trick. I think I don't know if this is true, but somebody said that the XG for Salah was half a goal.
Yeah, no, it's less. It's a third of a goal.
To
get a ball, chop it into 3, and one of those bits is a goal. Maybe.
But his other stats are like off the charts, like touches in the penalty area, shots on goal. Like they're like. I think his touches in the penalty area is like triple his average of last season for that Leeds game. So not every game is going to be like that Leeds game, but I'm quite happy with him.
Yeah. I mean, it's my fault, really. But I mean, the thinking was that I didn't want to go in with Aubameyang and Salah. I thought that Aubameyang could beat him over 2 games, and maybe he will. You never know. But I didn't want them both. I kind of, I wanted to spread the money around a little bit. I think. Yeah, not to say that it's boring or anything, but I feel like FPL has to be a bit more about it, more than just having Salah.
It's easy to say when you've won it.
I know. I was laughing at one of the comments in the chat from Will Payne. Lots of FPL guys being too clever by not having Salah. He's won it, Will.
I think he knows what he's doing.
But no, he is right though. I mean, I was sort of trying to be a bit clever by doing something different, and it backfired enormously. It feels like. Do you remember Jay Eggersdorf? When he was on the Scoutcast and he was talking about not going in with Kane and spreading the money around, which he did, but then Kane went and scored. 2 back-to-back.
He took a minus 12 for that though, didn't he?
Yeah,
he did. Yeah,
minus 12, and he missed 2 back-to-back hat tricks. Yeah.
But the logic was right. I mean, it made sense. He was just really unfortunate, and that's kind of how I feel about Salah. Although maybe without the logic part. Anyway, 49 points.
Just for the benefit of the podcast listeners, your team was McCarthy, Alexander-Arnold, Cody, Davis, Barnes, Havertz, Aubameyang, Son, Werner, Ings, Wilson, and you also had Mitchell on the bench. I just want to say, for what you've said though, you're like 10, 15 points behind Az, and 6 or 7 points behind me. Yet you don't have Salah. You don't have the guy that scored 20 points. So that says to me you've actually got a better team than me and Az, because you've got Cody scored you points, Aubameyang obviously, but you've got Wilson who scored you points, and Werner as well. So I look at that team, and I think for a Salah-less team, that's pretty good actually.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was hoping for. I was hoping for the fact that I've gone for some. I think we'll talk about it a little bit later on, but I think going for Havertz on his debut was a little bit more hope over expectation. But having players like Son and Ings and Barnes who are reasonably reliable, or most of the time reasonably reliable, for them all to blank, and Trent as well. But everybody's got Trent. I mean, I think this week to have 4 players who return something is actually fairly decent. Yeah. So hopefully that's a good sign going forward. Normally that would just be awful, but this week it's been that's it's an encouraging sign at least.
That's what I thought as well. When I got that assist from Robertson, I thought, at least it's someone. Someone's got me points, rather than see a 1 point. So I think you can take heart from that. Az, have you got any rough with the smooth for us before we move on to the community questions?
I do, and I think, like Simon just said, I think it was kind of a bad week for the template, because there's lots of players from teams that I was seeing a lot of going into game week 1. So Son, Walker Peters. I mean, he was lucky not to get sent off, with the red card overturned. St Maximan, Danny Ings. Lots of players who I saw in a lot of teams blanking. So unsurprisingly, there's quite a few roughs. So I'll just go through some of those. The lowest score I could find was Inazuma 11, who got 29, which is pretty bad as a start. He took several risks: Vinagre, Pulisic, Martinez, and had Foden and Martial on his bench. So obviously with when you're paying that much money for 2 players you aren't going to play, and you've got no bench cover, and then 2 of your players miss out, then you're going to have some problems. And he's got to make a goalkeeper transfer as well, so never nice. Sean McGing, he only managed to get 8 players out. Saka, Pulisic, Vinagre missing out. Didn't captain Salah, so not a great start for him. Trophy Mourinho, he had 3 Arsenal players, so they all did well, but also had 3 Spurs players who all flopped. Mitrovic didn't start. He used his bench boost, and he doesn't own Salah. So he came up with a kind of reasonable score in the end, but used the bench boost, and he's a chip down, so not ideal. And then there's other. I mean, Luke also went with a Salah strategy, but scored less than you. Simon got 34 points, I think, same as long ago after a Walrus. So there's people out there who have got Salah. Yeah,
Salah. As long as I'm beating somebody.
Yeah. Anyway, some smooths. Let's just wrap through these because no one likes to hear about people gloating, but some of these are pretty good. Stats don't lie. 103 points. Beautiful. Benefited from last-minute transfers, unlike me. So bought in Dean, bought in Sace, bought in Wilson, had Justin, Salah captain, 7k rank overall going into game week 2. Could win it. It's got about that, Simon. Simon, what was your rank after game week 1 when you won it?
It was all right. Yeah, it was about 30k or something, I think.
Okay. So a good start was pretty key then.
It was the year that I won it. The guy who came second though, was ranked something like 100,000 with 10 game weeks to go.
Wow.
And like I say, he came second. So
really, wow. Yeah. Never give up. That's the lesson.
So if you have had a bad start, then that's an example of it not mattering at all.
Absolutely. The best score I could find was the Fantasy Football Scout Mini League current leader, 134 points, triple captain Salah. Boom. Now you're triple captain game week 1 on a hat-trick player. Beautiful. An honourable mention to our own Andy, just because I hate him for this. He got his bench order wrong, like me. He played Bissouma first sub and then Mitchell second sub, and Vinagre didn't play, so got Bissouma coming on, and then Pulisic doesn't play and he gets Mitchell as well, so the 6 points. So there you go, slice of luck for him. Game week 1.
Smoother than one of FPL General's manscaping adverts. Very, very smooth indeed. Let's move on to the community questions. Manchester teams, Manchester United, Manchester City. Let's go for this picture. I love this picture of Martial and Fernandes going, hey, look at you assisting me, and hey, look at you, thanks for all the penalties. And that's basically what they're all about. Hey, we missed them game week 1. But we've got lots of questions. KDB as well. What a reliable captain he was last season. Manchester clubs are definitely back. But while United face Palace, City are up against a very tight Wolves back line. What do we do with their assets? Get them in, and who makes way? So anyway, got some community questions on this. Adam asks, which Manchester United and City players should we consider getting in and when? Just like it is. That's a great question. AU asks, assuming you guys have Aubameyang and Salah, are you guys going to bring in KDB, Bruno early with the potential 0.1 price rise? And obviously at this stage of the season, a 0.1 price rise or fall is effectively really a 0.5 really. Because just the way it goes, it just prices you out of that particular move you wanted to do. So you're going to need 0.5 in the bank to sort of get up to speed with those price rises or changes, if that is your bag, if you're a bit of a breadhead. Ron Mukherjee asks, is it worth taking some risks to get Manchester United players in, such as Ings to Martial? I think I saw on Twitter as you definitely approved of that move. Salah to Fernandes, perhaps. Lots more asking about who to remove for Fernandes, indeed. So yeah, well let's go with you first, Simon. You don't have Manchester coverage at all, City or United. You don't have Salah. You could, arguably do with some maybe. But yeah, do you have a particular plan? What's your Manchester plan?
Yeah, so I went into game week 1 without a plan to bring the two of them in. I had real faith that, there are so many more options this year that, maybe we don't need to look at necessarily immediately at the players who did so well last year. I think going forward, I definitely got a plan. My sort of, I have a kind of vision of what I want my kind of ideal team to look like, and Bruno Fernandes and KDB are both in it. Possibly at the expense of Aubameyang and Salah, or over Salah. But I think Crystal Palace is a good fixture. I've seen somebody was mentioning that Martial and Rashford tend to do better than Fernandes at home. Obviously, he's on penalties, and Man United get a penalty every game, at least one. So he's got that going for him. But maybe those are the two to look at. I'm personally not going to go immediately, I don't think, for a Man United player straight away. But those are ones that I'm looking at. I mean, I think the one that I really want is Fernandes, just because he's really my kind of FPL player. He's on all set pieces, he's on penalties. He's a creative edifice around which everything else moves. I think if you're going to have one Man United player, then he's the one for me. I don't think defence-wise though there's a lot of appeal among them. I think their away games look pretty good, but their home games look pretty tough for the next few. Tough for clean sheets, at least. I think they've got what is it? Sorry, I have to open the thing. Oh yeah, Spurs, Chelsea, and then Arsenal are the next few home games after Crystal Palace. So I think we can hold fire on the defence, but there's definitely a lot of good attacking options. But I don't know if they're necessarily better than the other options who have emerged. The likes of Werner and Son perhaps needs another game week to be assessed. I'm not in a rush to bring them in. It's a short answer.
No, fair enough. Az, what about you? Have you already made a move for Manchester?
I have.
Oh, okay. What have you done?
I am the opposite of Simon. I am in a rush to bring them in. It's good to have some different opinions on it. Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to target a United player, an attacking United player for the fixtures. I mean, Spurs and Chelsea. I think from a defensive point of view, certainly might not expect defensive returns from them, but from an attacking point, I can't see any reason why Man U can't stick a few goals. But I mean, especially Spurs, given the problems they're having defensively. I really wanted one. The one I wanted was Martial. I think it's any of them are good. Rashford at 9.5, I think it's a bargain. It's at 5% owned, which is crazy when you think he got 17 goals last year. I know 6 of them were penalties, but still, you've got to think that he's gonna kick on and have a good season this year. I like Martial up front as well. It's better for bonus, I believe, for him. I know he loses the extra point and the clean sheet, but you've got to think, I mean, he scored so many goals after they signed Bruno. So he had half a season doing okay, getting good points, and then Bruno signed and he just turned into this absolute goal machine. So if that carries on, then I think he's going to be an absolute, he's going to be a great price at 9 million. So I've already made the move to answer the last question. I've already done Ings to Martial. Do I think that Ings could score against Spurs? Yes. he nearly scored against Palace. I think he had two quite good chances. So it's a bit unlucky to not get anything from him there. But at this stage of the season, you've also got to take these price rises into account. And if you look at United and City players, they're all, you look at them on FPL statistics, whatever price site you're looking at, and they're all close already to getting up to 100%. So KDB, I think, is going up tonight. You're going to have Martial, you're going to have Fernandez probably going up this week as well. And if you don't make that move now, then it becomes a lot harder to make that move down the line, because you're going to have to downgrade another player to a lower price point, and it all gets a bit messy. So I just wanted to eliminate that right from the start and do Ings to Martial as part of the plan. So he's already in.
There's a sort of counter view to that. I think you're right in that. Obviously, if it goes up, say 0.1, it's really annoying, and you can't move, unless you've got that in the bank, without some, taking some hits and stuff. But I think actually in the beginning of the season, it's easier to, if you save a transfer or you're willing to take a hit, it's easier to to generate funds. I think, because you get all these players that emerge who are cheaper and better than the players that you currently got. Like Lundstrom, for example, was an example last season, and I think I feel like that's going to happen again, this season. I know we're going to talk about Everton a little bit later on, but the likes of Calvert-Lewin and Rodriguez, these are all players who are potentially quite underpriced compared to the more popular picks like Jimenez and Ings and so on. So I think if you are willing to leave it a little while, then I think maybe it won't be as difficult as perhaps we're thinking to find the funds. I
think the problem is that I kind of felt like I'm always going to have fires to be putting out. So do I think Martial is a better pick than Ings over a 4 or 5 game week period? Yes, I think he's going to outscore him. So then I'm looking at someone I've got like Vinagre in my team. I've got to get rid of him this week, so I could use my free transfer to upgrade him, not take the hit, and then that means keeping Ings. And how long does it go on? Every week I'm going to be wanting to transfer out players. I just feel like now I've got to be kind of aggressive and back the strategy and go with the ones that I want to get in. So no, I completely get. I mean, a good example of that is there's loads of I think there's some really good 5.5 options emerging. So like I could move Pereira down to Decore maybe, or Podence at Wolves started and playing up front and looking quite good. So yeah, there is definitely, and Havertz as well. I mean, I think we'll probably talk about him later, but he can always move down to Ziyech if he's back and he's 8 million. I completely agree, there are options. It's just I want to make it easy for myself at this stage. I mean, the big question is with City, what to do with City, because I mean their fixtures aren't great, but does it matter? Like Leicester at home doesn't look like a great fixture on paper, but then they could easily beat them 3 or 4-0 with De Bruyne on penalties, and I think I've got to be getting in I'm hoping Wolves away. I think is perfect because I don't feel like I need to act straight away. But once they have Leicester at home and then they have Leeds away, I mean, look at how open Leeds played against Liverpool. I think getting in a City player for that game is important.
Yeah, I think City are in some way a bit easier than Manchester United because they play Wolves first in game week 2, and then game week 3 it's against Leicester, which isn't a great fixture, but it's okay, it'll do. And then that coincides with Aubameyang's fixtures turning. So it's just a really nice, easy move. And also, FPL in their pricing has given us 0.5. So we can get some price rises of KDB. It looks like he may even go up in price tonight. And lots of people rush to get him in probably. But you can easily hold off, because if you're going to sell Aubameyang for him, you've got 0.5 to go. He may well go up 0.5 and you may get priced out of that. But that's the decision.
Are you moving for KDB or Sterling?
Yeah, I'm gonna. So
you are, Joe. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I had this plan, which I described at the beginning, which was scuppered with Souček was quarantined. Then he wasn't, so I could go back in for him, and that allowed me to get Martial on my bench. So I knew that I was going to take a slight hit in game week 1 in terms of not an optimal squad. But I guess Jimenez or Ings would have been my substitute for Martial, so it would have worked with Jimenez but not Ings. So I'm really still tempted to get Fernandes in as well. Obviously no hit, so I can get Martial and Fernandes no hit. And that's going to be a bit different. Maybe that will be, I'll get accusations of you're being so clever, trying to be so clever, Joe, and now you've fallen flat on your face. Ha ha ha. Well, maybe that might happen. I don't know, but I think the plan to have that and that sort of Manchester United differential as their prices are going up, and then I can move for Man City. So come game week 3, I've got City, I've got United, I've got some Chelsea and Werner, but there's an absence there, and that's Salah. And part of that plan was to remove Salah for Fernandes, because, and I know this is something you've been discussing on your Black Box podcast about captaincy, getting it right. Obviously, yourself and Mark got your Salah captaincy bang on, but I was looking at captaincy, and I don't think I'll captain him until game week 7 when he's at home to West Ham. That's the next really good Salah captaincy fixture. And I know we shouldn't get rid of players just because we're not going to captain them. But I look at the other fixtures, and I think away, that might be a bit more of a Mane game. And I don't want to get too clouded with game week 1 and think, Salah's going to get a hat-trick every week, no matter who he's against. He's not. He was against a newly promoted side. He was against basically a defence of, this was a newly formed defence from Leeds. A lot of them were children, basically. And this isn't to put Leeds down. This is not their fault. They were just been in the transfer market. They lost Ben White back to Brighton. And so, they were going into that game, handicapped really, with their they were tied. And so it was tricky for them. And so that wasn't a good, so I don't know. But so yeah, the headline news there is my original plan was to get rid of Salah for Fernandes. And I have a choice. I've got Martial. I've got a choice. It's gonna go to the wire on Friday, Saturday morning, but Salah may go for Fernandes.
I was chatting to Luke the other day, and Luke made a really good point, and he was saying that people are changing their strategies. So people who were deciding to take Salah out for a City player or for Fernandes, they were being influenced by this week's points, and so they were saying, but Salah looked really good, so I'm not going to take him out now. And kind of Luke was saying, well, surely you kept him for the Leeds game, like hoping he'd do well, and then he's done well, and now you take those points and you move on for another player who could potentially. That's the whole point of the strategy. Like if Salah doesn't do well, then the strategy's failed anyway, because I don't know, this whole upside chasing thing that Late Riser talks about. If you're going to do it, I think you need to kind of see it through and not base it on what happens.
I mean, I'm seeing it from a dullard eye, so I don't see it as upside chasing. That's far too exciting. I see that as just I had a plan, and it just seemed to work in terms of captaincy, and I just thought Fernandes looks a better option the next few game weeks, and it frees up 1.5, and that 1 point, I don't have any fires to put out after game week 1, thankfully, but I'm gonna in game week 2 and 3 I'm gonna want some Everton. I'm possibly gonna want a bit more Chelsea. I'm possibly gonna want some Leeds. I'm possibly gonna want some more Newcastle. I'm possibly gonna want, and it goes on, and that extra money that gives me, it's just options. I don't know how I'm going to use it yet, but it's just options. And I might just stick with the plan. So I mean, I just got some looking at some stats in the captaincy video. It's that I did earlier today with David. Do have a look at that. We look at things like Salah, Vardy, Aubameyang as well as and Fernandes as well as options. And one of the things striking, I looked at the expected goal involvement stats. Top of the pile, as you would expect, Salah and Vardy. Double points haul there for them. Salah 2.21, Vardy 1.59, and then next is Willian and Jimenez. But you've got to bear in mind, I haven't done. If you look at expected goals non-penalty, Vardy 0, fat 0. He was expected to score absolutely nothing, but he got the penalties. Salah 0.38. As we spoke at the beginning of the show, a third of a goal. He was expected to score a third of a goal from open play. He scored a great goal from open play, but he also scored 2 penalties. And so on. Now, this isn't part of an argument to say, oh, Salah captainers, Vardy captainers all got lucky, or if you didn't have penalties, you wouldn't do well. It's not like that at all. They've got penalties. They're penalty takers in attacking teams. That's why Fernandes, I think, is a great option. He's a penalty taker in an attacking team. He can win himself a penalty. Rashford can. Greenwood can. Martial. There's loads of great, pacey, attacking players who are ready to be fouled in the penalty box, ready for Fernandes to exploit it, as Salah has done and as Vardy has done. So I look at Vardy's 0 expected goal non-penalty, and then I look at his, whatever he get, 13 points. What's important to FPL managers? His expected goal stats, or the fact that he's actually come away with a massive haul. And so for me, I like this. So it's quite, look at that, it's quite painful to get rid of Salah for that. But I think Fernandes' fixtures are better. So Salah's the penalty taker, but I don't know how many penalties he's going to win. He's playing better teams. And Fernandes, I just don't like it. I don't like his...
That's a ballsy move for you, Joe, taking Salah out for Fernandes.
It is, but like you were saying with Luke, so Salah hadn't got an assist against Leeds, that was it. Mane scored a brace, whatever. Say that had happened, then no one would bat an eyelid. Like, oh, Joe's getting rid of Salah, just ho-hum, normal day. But because he scored a hat-trick, I'm going to stick with my plan, I think, because I haven't seen anything.
I respect that.
I haven't seen anything to change my mind. Salah takes a lot of shots. Most of them aren't very good, but he's on penalties and he's capable of scoring a worldie. And what did he do? He did all of what I've just described. That's what he does. That's what he's been doing for 2 years.
Over 20 touches in the penalty area, though. Yeah. That is so many. That is such dangerous positions for him to be taking up.
I'm not
worrying.
Yeah, against Leeds children, but I really,
ouch.
No, there's not an ouch. Sometimes on the Scoutcast, it's like, you have a bogey team, like a team you like to, I like to have a go at, Middlesbrough or whatever, or Fulham, or the Whipping Boys or whatever. You will not hear me slag off Leeds this season. I think they were great. That was one of the best opening games of the season. If they go down, they're going to go down in such style, and I don't think they will. They're really good. They've got a top manager. They're a top side. I like the look of Leeds. So hefty praise for Leeds there.
So just coming to Simon quickly. So City. So you're not moving for United players. You haven't got Salah, and I assume you're not moving for him. Are you going for De Bruyne or Sterling?
Not straight away. No.
Wow.
At some point, I will go for De Bruyne. But at the moment, the plan isn't to go immediately for them. It's to sort of scope them out a little bit and see how they're playing. I think you've got, especially up front with City, there's some real question marks about who's going to play, because apparently, I heard that Aguero is a bit closer to return than we expected. So, investing in Jesus is probably not, a great idea, in the long term. But I just kind of want to see how they emerge as well. I think that I don't know. I don't want to write these teams off. I was expecting Liverpool to struggle a bit more. Maybe defensively they have. You're not going to see this in 1 or 2 games, but I think going in necessarily expecting that City are going to be exactly the same team that they were last season, I'm not sure. I think they haven't strengthened. Maybe there are issues there. They haven't particularly strengthened.
Should have got Messi.
they should have got Messi. Yeah, and I just want to I'm fully expecting them to be in the top 2 come the end of the season. But I just want to see that when they play, because we haven't had any real pre-season or anything like that they're on it and they're up for it.
So you're playing a much more kind of patient game than Joe and I, because we're trying to attack, aren't we, Joe? Which is interesting. Well, two different strategies.
I feel like you can afford to do it this year because there are so many options, and so it's worth scoping out those other options and then seeing how the likes of United and City get on when they start playing. It hasn't worked out so far, so read into that what you will.
Well, I think that to me was when I was making my team. One of the main reasons I wanted Aubameyang and Salah and not spread the points around was because I knew there was quite a few premium options around, and I wanted to be able to be a bit more flexible about moving them rounds. Whereas I guess when you've got Son, Havertz, you've got quite a lot of sort of 8-9 million. I guess it's slightly more difficult to get in someone like De Bruyne or Sterling, or is it not? Because I guess you can. Have you got kind of a way? Have you got a plan in your mind of how to kind of do that, or you're just going to kind of take it as it comes?
Yeah, if I were to do it, it would probably involve getting rid of Son or swapping out Son and Aubameyang. So but it's the same story every year. You can't have all the premium players.
You're going to try and stick with one premium, then it sounds like.
That's the plan.
That's
yeah,
the plan.
Assuming that other players can step up. I mean, because the way that I look at it is, you remember a couple of seasons ago when you had Aguero and Ibrahimovic, who both came in at 12 million, and they started off the season, they were just slamming in goals, and it was brilliant. If you had both of them, you were in a fantastic position. But then one dropped off, and then the other one dropped off. And suddenly you've got 24 million of your budget invested in two players that aren't scoring. And, what else have you got? Not a lot, a lot of the time, unless some real budget options emerge, who can score consistently, then you're in trouble. So what I'm hoping to achieve this season is, to create a team of, being a bit flexible around which premiums I have, but then have a core of mid-price players who deliver consistently over time. And it's like I always say in my articles: if you score 60 points a week, it doesn't matter if they come from Salah or your captain or Aubameyang or whatever. As long as you're scoring 60 points a week, then you're going to have a really good rank.
It's the exact opposite strategy of what I'm doing, because I'm banking completely on 4 players to deliver all my points, and the rest are just there to fill in numbers. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Well, I don't think one strategy is necessarily any better than the other. And like you can see, there's a lot of risk in both of them. I was on the wrong end of that risk on this past game week. But I think when I've tried to do that in the past, when I've thought, right, okay, there are these 3 or 4 premium players that I have to have, and I'll just build my team around that, and you end up with players like Dendoncker, rotating with Kearney and stuff like that. It just hasn't worked out well for me, and maybe that's because I'm not quick enough at moving them out. I don't chase the upside as well as late riser, for example, has turned that into a bit of an art. But for me, it hasn't really worked out. I much prefer having a spread of points around the team, and if they all chip in with, I don't know, between 5 and 10 points, on average, then that should be fine.
I think the way it's priced this year as well, with all of these really expensive players and the likes of Aubameyang, Salah, Mane, 12 million, and you've got Werner and Kane, all 10 million plus you've got all this value as well. It presents 2 diametric opposite strategies for managers. Do you swap around the premiums, or do you use your transfers to swap around the cheaper players? And because I'm going to try and do both, swap around the premiums and the cheaper players, and not really think of it in a particular way. But I think so far, Simon, even though you got caught out with the Salah move, as we said, you had more players that scored points. They obviously didn't match Salah's points that particular week, but the fact that you had more shows that spreading the cash, I think, works. And that's one of my appeals, certainly an appeal for getting rid of Aubameyang down to a City midfielder, even though they're going to be, it's not much of a saving, but that's certainly the appeal for me. I really could do with $1 million or $1.5 million. I would love to use that elsewhere across my squad. And I think we're just faced with that choice, and either we do rely on, as we're saying, rely on 4 players, or try and rely on maybe 6 if we can. They don't have to be premiums, but they can be the likes of James at Everton, or they could be some of those Chelsea players that are quite kindly priced. But speaking of Everton, we've got lots of questions about them. Much improved. Yes. Everton.
Yes, and everyone was excited because they've gone out and spent some cash on a whole new midfield, and the new midfield was absolutely brilliant, wasn't it? I mean, they look so good on the ball and so composed and so solid, for most of the game. So the questions are, what do we think of that performance? Are they worth investing in? They've got an amazing run of fixtures. They always do, don't they, Everton, at the start of the season? They always seem to have like a sea of blue fixtures. Somehow it's crazy. So Gregor asked, did Everton impress us? Who is the best to bring in? What do we think about their defence? And Foe says Richarlison had good underlying stats, especially compared to Calvert-Lewin. Which one would you get in? So let's come to you then first, Joe. What do you reckon of Everton?
Yeah, I'm impressed.
Impressed, right?
I'm impressed because it fits two things I look for: form and fixtures. It sounds simple, but that's what drives most managers, and they've got both of those. So I like to get one in. It's going to be how my team fits around in game week 3-4ish. It's that. So their fixtures. Look at their fixtures. They've got West Brom. If you can get one in now, get them, because West Brom look on the verge of being the whipping boys. You got Crystal Palace. You got Brighton, and then you got Liverpool. That's a tricky one, game week 5. But then it's the Liverpool defence. So, and then you've got Southampton, Newcastle, Manchester United becomes tricky. And then it gets better again. Fulham, Leeds, and then Burnley, Chelsea a bit mixed. We're talking, this is next 12 game weeks we're talking. That's a huge run of perhaps up to game week 11 when they play Burnley. There's just 2 fixtures that are tricky in the middle of that. Now they've got the opening game out of the way, which they equip themselves quite well. I'm really impressed. Game week 6 for that Southampton game, maybe when I go for them. See how I'm looking. But looking at form, so what have we got? Richarlison, 5 shots inside the box, a minute per goal attempt every 18 minutes. Calvert-Lewin, just 2 shots inside the box, both on target though. There were some interesting ones there. Decore, 4 chances created. Rodriguez, we saw what he was all about, 5 chances created there. So you can see the creativity, and also we've got those goal scoring as well. Breaking news, sorry. Gareth Bale to Spurs, confirmed. Is that true?
Not confirmed, but he's in talks according to all the major.
Have I had a flashback? And it's like, is he moved from Southampton and he's going to be left
Maybe
back?
be a defender in the game again.
He's going to be the new left back for Spurs. Anyway, okay. So breaking news. We'll come back to that in a sec. But I had a look at last season compared to the current game week. So what I did is I looked in the members area at Fantasy Football Scout. I compared the average performance in any given match last season with their current game week. So number of chances created, on average they had 9 last season, 13 in the opening game. Pass completion was up from 78% to 85%, and open play goal attempts doubled. So their creativity in midfield that we could all see with our eyes has played out in those stats. And it's leading to open play goal attempts actually doubling. So that says to me, Everton I want. I don't know how, but I'm going to try it. Game week 6, probably.
Yeah, and I mean I feel the same. I mean I'm pretty gutted that I haven't got Dean, to be honest. I mean I don't think he looked that amazing against Spurs, but is against quite a tough team away from home. But from his set play delivery, I mean, he's just so accurate with those crosses and such a threat from them. So for 6 million, I think he's just such a good pick. And I think if you're comparing him directly to the 6 million midfielders, like I've got Pereira, people with like Sir Maximan, okay, is a bit cheaper, but if you're looking around the 6 million mark, I honestly don't think anyone really comes close to Dean with the fixtures and the set pieces and all of that. Simon, what do you reckon about Everton? You're not getting any City, you're not getting any United. Surely you're getting some Everton in.
Yeah, I mean, I came. If anyone who read my article on about my team last week, might have noticed that I had Rodriguez in. And I kept hold of him up until Thursday or Friday, so that's how late it was. And then it looked like he wasn't going to start, and so I thought, okay, well I can wait a week. But I was very keen to have him in again because he ticks all those boxes for me in terms of he's on a lot of set pieces. I think he's probably going to maybe encroach a little bit on Dean, who's a player that I really really like. I had him at the tail end of last season. He did really well for me. But yeah, I think Rodriguez is. I think he's probably underpriced as well at 7.5. And if there's somebody at 7.5 that can emerge to be a real heavy hitter this season, I think it could be him. And there's so many options in that team. I think Calvert-Lewin looks really good at 7 million. And as a Chelsea fan, obviously I remember Ancelotti at Chelsea, and the best football I've ever seen Chelsea play was under Ancelotti, and and by that I mean the most flowing attacking football. He scored over 100 goals in that Championship winning season. It's fantastic, and so we know that's his kind of philosophy, and he's building a team that can do that. And so I think they're really exciting. I think obviously the big question is who you go for. Like I say, obviously I like Rodriguez a lot. I would probably go for Calvert-Lewin over Richarlison at the moment. I think Richarlison, as good as he is, he's really going to have to step up to make up for the fact that he's been reclassified and that he's a million odd more than Calvert-Lewin as well.
And if he's playing out wide, I mean, his stats were good, but he is playing wider.
Yeah. And so now he's, reverse out of position as well. And so he's not somebody that I'm really looking at the moment, but, I think he'll probably chip in with his 15 odd goals a season as normal. And I think that the fact that Rodriguez and Calvert-Lewin, though, open up so much opportunity. And when we're talking about having these heavy hitters, and with the prospect of perhaps Bale coming in as well. Now, we're going to need some of these players, and as you guys have already said, the fixtures look brilliant. I mean, fixtures for Everton always look brilliant. They've never not had a good run of fixtures. It just seems to be physically impossible for that to happen. I think they're really exciting at the moment, and I've got my eye on. I think we'll come to my team later on, but I've definitely got an eye on moving Barnes or Havertz onto Rodriguez. So that might be a transfer that I've got coming up.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts are, I think the prices of the players, like you mentioned, are just so good. I mean, they're based on the fact that Everton haven't been that great for a while. When you look at Dean for 6, you look at Rodriguez 7.5, Calvert-Lewin for 7, like that's where I think we are going to see some real, some players who really kind of outscore their price tag. I mean, I've been very critical of Calvert-Lewin based on what I've seen, saying he's not really good enough. I think I've been too harsh. I've been too harsh on him. I mean, I got burned by him last season. We didn't score a single goal after lockdown, and I had him for a while, so that can kind of thing. But I mean, Ancelotti obviously really trusts him, and they haven't been linked to any strikers, so he's obviously happy with the attacking options they've got. And I mean, with Calvert-Lewin, he's going to be on the end of crosses coming in from Rodriguez, from Dean, from all the set plays that they can deliver now, and you've got to think that, for 7 million starting up front for that team with all that creativity, a really solid midfield that can win the ball back and they can break quickly. I think he's a really, really strong option. So I'm not looking at him for my own team, but I think if you've got him or if you're looking to get him, I think you're onto a winner there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's just going to be based on where you've got space in your own team, who you want to move on. And I can see after Havertz's performance against Brighton, it wasn't the greatest of debuts. It's an easy move to Rodriguez. I don't know yet whether Rodriguez is going to be a sort of Modric, as in he's going to look amazing, the best player on the pitch, but assist the assister. In FPL terms, that's not great. I don't know whether he's going to be that player or he's just going to be a great player that assists loads. And I mean, he's 5 chances created, but 3 goal attempts, none on target though. But you would think that a player like him, who was, I think he was for most people, the player of the 2014 World Cup. So I just wonder I don't know yet. So that's why I'm giving it a little time. But yeah, the value of Calvert-Lewin, and I think Richarlison's got a couple of hauls in him coming up. And I think if you've got Richarlison, keep. If you've got any Everton assets, keep. Decore, I think, could be the secret weapon there. And I think those that haven't got anything to do, some maximum to Decore could be something that people do in a couple of game weeks or 2 once they've seen, or perhaps even the next game week. But Decore, 4 chances created. I like that. I like the look of that. And we've seen. I mean, he was the Duke of Watford. So can he be the Duke of Evertonshire as well? Well, let's hope so. But yeah, I mentioned Havertz there. Havertz to Rodriguez seems like, I would say, a pretty sensible move. But Chelsea have got Chelsea have got lots of options. And so yeah, Simon, I've given you this bit to talk about because you are a Chelsea fan as well. So get your fans' eye view. So yeah, I think they look quite good and ripe for investment. But yeah, take it away.
Yeah,
Simon.
absolutely. Well, I mean, obviously Chelsea are going to win the treble this season. The question is, how are they going to do it?
I hope not. Oh.
And yeah, I think I don't know. I think there's options all across the pitch. I think it's a bit irrelevant at the moment, but I think that Ziyech is possibly one of the better options. I think the fact that he scores goals, creates goals, he's going to be on all set pieces. Is really strong. But obviously, we don't know when he's going to be back. I had him as my the player that I wanted until he was injured, and I replaced him with Havertz with the idea that I can downgrade or move into Pulisic. So I mean, in his absence, though, I think Werner is possibly really good value. I was surprised actually. I noticed some of the questions, people asking what to do with Werner, and I don't know if that's a reflection of the upcoming fixtures or the fact that he didn't score last night. But I was surprised at it because, when I was looking at the Chelsea forums and stuff after the match yesterday, everybody was just over the moon with his performance. I mean, he's got so much to his game technically. He's really, really fast, but he's a great finisher as well. There's so many different ways in which he can score. From a fantasy football perspective, he likes to go out wide. He creates as well as awesome. He looks really, really good, and he's got that kind of killer instinct about him as well, which Chelsea just haven't had since Diego Costa, and by extension, us in FPL, we haven't had that option in a Chelsea striker for a while. You've got Tammy Abraham, but Tammy Abraham's maybe going to score a couple of goals, score a goal, and then disappear from the match for the rest of the match. Whereas Werner just seems, you can just sort of see it in his eyes. There's something almost sort of cold-eyed. There's something sort of Ted Bundy.
There's no pupils there. When he opens his eyes,
I truly appreciate that.
When he opens his eyes, there's little footballs. There's no pupils. They're just like these black and white. Those.
Just a robot built for scoring goals.
He's just a goal robot.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, he will keep chasing goals as long as he's on the pitch. And he's capable of scoring them. He's exactly the kind of player that, I don't know if you've been watching the All or Nothing documentary. He's exactly the kind of player that Mourinho is talking about. Yeah. I won't use his terminology, but he is that kind of player, that absolute that loud on the pitch, never stops, lots of energy, really ruthless. I think he's a really, really good option. And I think that he could be actually quite cheap at 9.5. I do kind of see the point that you could get some more proven assets in the likes of Vardy or Martial at that price, and I can certainly understand if somebody wanted to lean that way, but I think he's I think he could be 20-25 goals this season, and probably quite a lot of assists as well. I like him a lot. I think Reece James. So obviously there are question marks about Chelsea's defence, but he is a bit of a sort of standout player. We saw the goal last night. I watched that back without the crowd noise, and just the sound it makes when it leaves his boot. It was like a sonic boom. It's just absolute pile driver of a shot. He's capable of that. He was on corners yesterday. I'm not sure he's going to keep those when Ziyech is back. He's also his delivery. One of the big frustrations from a Chelsea fan point of view last season was that game after game saw James just putting in these fantastic deliveries and just nobody getting on the end of it. But now you've got to believe that, the likes of Havertz and Werner, these players will get on the end of those, and so that increases his assist potential. And I think realistically, for 5 million, if Chelsea can get sort of 15 clean sheets this season,
you think he keeps his place then, even when Azpilicueta's back and Chilwell's fit?
I think he does. Yeah.
Over Azpilicueta then.
Well, he started ahead of Azpilicueta yesterday. I know has been carrying a bit of an injury from the FA Cup final, and that might have had something to do with it. But I think that Lampard sees James as the future. I was expecting Azpilicueta to start the season and then James to come in, and maybe that's his plan for Liverpool. I don't know. I mean, that's the problem with everything at this stage of the season, is that you can't judge very much on one game.
I was just going to say, with Azpilicueta, would he fit into centre back more to free up that space for Reece James?
Can he play in a two? I've never seen him in a pairing before.
That's the thing. I mean, it's just because Azpilicueta is very trusted in defence somewhere.
He's a captain as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he could do. He's not very tall for a centre back, and nor necessarily is Thiago Silva. I think Thiago Silva is about 6 foot, and so that would potentially leave him a little bit weak in the air. But yeah, he can do. I mean, he can certainly play in a back three, which Chelsea play a lot of the time. I mean, one of the interesting things that I think from yesterday's game is that James has started to adopt that kind of role that Trent Alexander-Arnold has started to adopt, which is more than just a fullback. When they're playing out of the back, he operates as a sort of deep lying playmaker. And James has definitely got more of that about his game than Azpilicueta does. Azpilicueta is probably a better defender, but James is a much better passer, I think. And so if that's something that and that's actually what led to the goal as well. He was drifting inside, and he just found himself in an advanced position where he could take a shot. So if that's something that they're looking to do, then I think that really works in James's favour. So I think he's really. I mean, how wrong can you go at 5 million?
I mean, you were talking about the crosses as well. I just noticed that James took 9 crosses, so created a couple of chances. Took 3 corners as well. Yeah, this is sort of Alexander-Arnold light territory we're getting into here.
Could he be? I'm not happy with this. Reece James and Trent Alexander-Arnold. Come on.
Well, do you remember years ago? This very studio, if such a studio existed, but all in our homes. And Mark was going on about this young lad, Alexander-Arnold, and all the crosses he was doing, and all the set pieces. And I said, who the hell is Alexander-Arnold? I didn't know. Now we all know. So who knows? But
it's really interesting in the chat, because there's obviously quite a few Chelsea fans in the chat, and it's so split. So half of them think you're an absolute idiot for saying that, Simon. They're saying Azpilicueta is definitely going to start. You're completely wrong. And the other half are saying no, Azpilicueta is too old now, slow. Reece James is the future. He's going to lock his team. I think it's a risk, isn't it? You get him in. You've got to expect that there might be a bit of rotation. It might take a while for him to establish himself. If that's the case, I would be worried if they stick with a back four for Reece James, because I think I mean, they've got Thiago Silva for like the leadership now, but Azpilicueta is such a reliable, consistent defender, isn't he? Whereas Reece James, I haven't seen every match he doesn't play like he did against Brighton.
One of the advantages that you have with starting James over Azpilicueta, though, is that Azpilicueta can play pretty much anywhere across the back line. Obviously he can play left back as well as right back. So if you think in terms of like the players that they would want to have on the bench, he in a way frees up an extra attacking player, because you don't necessarily have to cover that left back position, you don't have to cover the centre half position. Azpilicueta can do both of them, and so that's a bonus. But they might well be right. I mean, he might well be the number one, and James has eased in. What I will say is that Azpilicueta got a lot better as the season went on, but at the beginning of last season, he was an absolute liability. He was responsible for a lot of the goals that Chelsea conceded earlier on, and so I wonder if the way that Chelsea play now, this really intense pressing style, is something that players like Azpilicueta need to sort of gear up to, whereas James, because he's like 19 years old or something, is just more physically capable of playing that from the out. So.
Yeah, I just following up on Az's point about the live chat. As soon as we start talking about Chelsea, suddenly there's like a comment every second, and Chelsea fans like, wow, I didn't know so many of them could write. But
can we?
It's because they know they all know we're going to win the treble. That's why.
Some fruity
We've just been waiting for an opportunity to tell everyone.
Can we please talk about Havertz? Because I'd love to get opinions on him, because I mean, I basically restructured my entire team to get him, and it wasn't just because I thought Havertz was going to be amazing. It was to have that 8.5 option so that I could move to. I just think having Werner, everyone's got Werner 50% owned. I wanted to be able to get in a Chelsea midfielder when their fixtures turn. I mean, they've got West Brom, Palace, and Southampton in a row. After Liverpool, so if Ziyech is fit, you can go for him. Pulisic obviously didn't play and might be nursing a bit of an injury, but an amazing option if he's back. So I wanted that thing, but I mean, I can't remember being less impressed with someone. Thinking that they'd bought Havertz and he's like that kind of marquee signing, the future of the club and all that stuff, and then doesn't even get played in his kind of natural position, shifted out onto the right, passing terrible. I mean, I must have watched the game for about 35, 40 minutes, and I was genuinely wondering if he'd even touched the ball. He didn't seem to be asking for it. He didn't seem comfortable. I mean, I think he was tracking back a fair bit and making some recoveries, but he didn't look like someone who really wanted to get on the ball and make things happen and stuff. So it's a bit concerning, and we both own him, don't we, Simon? So, and you're thinking of getting rid already?
Well, I think, all right, there's only so much you can obviously tell from, a debut when he's only had 4 or 5 days playing, training with Chelsea and stuff. So we probably haven't seen the best side of him.
No, not.
That is probably fair to say.
That's the best side of him. You've been absolutely robbed.
I think it's fair to say it was difficult to see yesterday, particularly in the position that he was played, sort of a bit more out on the right, how he was going to score. I don't think that's necessarily his best position. He has played that. And some people will argue that, that maybe is his best position. But I think in the Premier League, you just don't see those kind of languid, kind of graceful wingers do well. I can't think of a single one. Maybe Di Maria did well for a while, but ultimately, he had to move more centrally in order to get on the ball. And I think that's what will eventually happen with Havertz. I think we will see a very different player if he's playing centrally, be it in a number 8 or in a number 10.
And he will, right? When Pulisic and Ziyech are back, he has to play.
I think so. I hope so. Front. I really hope that is the plan. I mean, I think possibly yesterday, obviously there were players missing, but also I think that there was an idea that, all right, we'll start him off in a position where you're going to get more space and more time on the ball, rather than stick him in at the number 10 position. And he's suddenly got to get used to the pace of the Premier League, from a position that is about as frenetic as you can get on a football field. So maybe that was the idea. But yeah, I think when you see him in a central position, his close control is so good. His kind of, he can put through balls on the turn. There's something slightly of the kind of, I hate to make kind of comparisons, but there is something slightly De Bruyne about him in that role, and he can shoot as well, and he can score headers. I mean, he offers a lot, I think, in his game. But
look what happened when they put De Bruyne. They put De Bruyne out right, didn't they, in the Champions League match, City last season, and he was really ineffective, and they lost. So. You take the best players and play them out of position, and they're not going to look quite right. So I'm trying not to panic. Too much. What do you think, Joe? Are you must be worried about Havertz?
My weekly mention of my Sky team, he is in there, and it's a watching brief in FPL. I don't rule him out at all. I mean, yes, he didn't have a great debut, but it's only one game, and he appears to be a good player. They wouldn't have spent so much on him. So let's see. Pulisic, I'm interested in his fitness problems, and I wonder whether that's going to be a recurring issue. So if I get Pulisic in at some point, I'm going to have to be prepared to move him out. Werner is the one I'm really pleased with. I mean, I don't know. I hate to bandy around the word season keeper, but he could be. I think 9.5 is great. Traditionally, you mentioned like the likes of Costa or Drogba. You know, you're talking 10.5 really. So I think he's potentially been underpriced. Bearing in mind, he took quite a heavy knock. So he was sort of technically kind of injured for a lot of that game. He took 5 shots inside the box. 5 shots, all of them inside the box. And he managed to create a chance as well. For an injured guy. And also the comments he made about, you know, is he going to be fit for the Liverpool game? It were very much sort of like, you are fit for the Liverpool for a game like that. So it's going to be, you know, I think managers like that as well. Obviously within reason, they don't want him to get injured. But if he's really up for it, and he's so noticeably the best striker that Chelsea have on their books, yeah, I think it's looking good. It's looking good for him to play. It's looking good for him to find space behind that very, very high Liverpool defence. And that's something we spoke about in the captaincy video as well this week. And I think we're going to be mentioning Werner. I can see myself captaining Werner, possibly against West Brom, possibly a few times this season. Yeah, I like.
Well, this is it. I mean, I wanted the 2 Chelsea players. I thought Brighton away is going to be a tough game, and I know they won in the end. The scoreline was quite high, but I thought Brighton were absolutely excellent in that match, and you know really made it difficult for Chelsea, which I kind of thought they would. And then Liverpool obviously next. You're not expecting. You wouldn't be expecting 2 double-digit returns from Havertz and Werner in those games. I don't think anyway. It's going to be game week 3 and 4 when they're playing teams who you expect them to really put to the sword. That's going to be the real test.
Well, it's a good segue into next 4 fixtures, which is going to be the next section.
Completely deliberate.
Good. Well done. They play obviously Liverpool next, but then they've got West Brom, Crystal Palace, and Southampton. So for this section, really, we want to look at the next 4 fixtures. We're going to look at the players to target over the next 4 weeks. Worth saying that because Fantasy Football Scouts partner with Football Index, there may also be players to look at buying through Football Index as well. That's essentially where you can buy and sell shares in players. Use your fantasy football knowledge with the aim to make a profit. Looking at those fixtures, we've got them up on the screen. I've sorted it by in terms of difficulty there, and so this is overall. So this is the next 4. Sheffield United, I'm a top, but I didn't like the look of them against Wolves. No. So Sheffield United have Villa, Leeds, Arsenal, and Fulham on paper. That's good. Wolves defence, that's another thing. That's the sort of. I actually don't mind taking a hit for a Wolves defender from game week 3. After they get City out of the way, they've got West Ham, Fulham, Leeds. It do not get better than that. That is, I'm willing to take a hit for a Wolves defender because I think that Wolves defender, in clean sheets alone, is going to pay that back. I can see 3 clean sheets out of 4. So I like the look of that. Manchester United.
I actually think Simon's got it right with Cody. I know Sace. Yeah. I mean, Sace was top of threat for all defenders. He could have scored 2 or 3 goals in that game, really. But you know, I mean, Nuno's comments about Marçal, not being ready, and then he slots straight in at left wing back. But he's also a left-sided centre back as well, who could take Sace's place. And I think, like you say, Joe, getting in a Wolves defender for their run of fixtures, I think is really, really important. And I think Cody's the boring pick, but I think he probably is the one that I'd go for if I was going to pick one now.
Yeah, it's why I went for Bolly last year. Because he's good value. But yeah, I just thought, I just want to get a guy who's going to play and get clean sheets. I don't want to mess around with Vinagre or, who's going to play left back. Is Traore going to play right wing back? Have they got a wing back? You know where you are. Yeah, Cody, I think is bizarrely the smart move. Sace, I don't know if he's horrible. I don't know if he's nailed. He could be. He's in. Yeah. One of them is coming.
It was a great performance from him, and a great performance from Marçal as well, who I really didn't want to have a good game as a Vinagre owner. But yeah, I do think there could be some sort of swapping around that goes on there. The
FPL Live site, which tracks your performance during the game week, they do there's an interesting thing on there which looks at the teams, the matches where you're doing well in terms of your FPL points and not. So for me, for example, I didn't captain Salah, but I owned him, and I actually was down half a point after that Liverpool match because I had Robertson and Alexander-Arnold. But the worst one for me, I was down about 7 or 8 points. on the average was because of Wolves. No Wolves coverage, so I definitely want Wolves coverage. I think that's the smart play. I think, and yeah, Simon's. Yeah, you look at Cody there and go, Cody, but yeah, I think that's a sensible move.
Well, I had Sice up until late on Friday evening, and so when he scored, I just thought, oh damn it. Yeah, I mean, the reason that I went for him, went for Cody was exactly what you guys have described. Is that he's a lot more nailed on. He seems to offer absolutely nothing going forward, but yeah, clean sheets. He plays every match, and he got 2 bonus points as well, which was pretty good.
And the thing is, with Bolly and Patricio at 5.5 now, it's money, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's good. Tottenham is worth mentioning. Play Southampton, Newcastle, Manchester United, West Ham. They could be signing Gareth Bale again, so okay, something to consider. Everton, we've already mentioned. West Brom, Crystal Palace, Brighton, and then that Merseyside derby, and then you start getting into the. We mentioned Chelsea as well, but you start getting Fulham and have good fixtures on paper, but it's Fulham, and it's been said by many people they look like they're going down. I'm just not going to repeat that, but they are. So just one thing to note, though, looking at those fixtures, is the latest whipping boys as well, which only 1 game in. So look, take this with a pinch of salt. Take these whippings with a pinch of salt. Is that a thing? Anyway, so XG conceded, West Brom 2.83. Leeds 2.76, so they are the worst in terms of XG, expected goals conceded. Bear in mind 2 of those were penalties. Fulham though, nearly 2, XG of nearly 2. They should have conceded 2 from open play. That is what the stats tell us there, and there was no penalties involved there. So that tells me that target Fulham. West Ham as well. They also conceded. They conceded a big chance, but they had an XG of 1.57. So they are the 4th worst in terms of expected goals conceded. So yeah, let's have a look at West Ham. But that's why I'm considering captaining Aubameyang. So we'll come to that shortly. But yeah, I think Sheffield United are the 5th worst in terms of expected goals. That's a situation to monitor. Have you haven't got Ramsdale still on your side, have you, Az?
No, I got rid of him and I was worried about it. And to be honest, after his performance and Sheffield United's performance, I'm feeling a lot better about it.
Simon, the Sheffield United defence, are you interested? I mean, especially not after that Wolves game, but
yeah, not at the moment. I was expecting, as we probably all were, a lot more from that game. I was surprised, that they went 2-0 down at home. So yeah, I don't know if they're just slow to start this season or if there's something wrong there. But yeah, I think you have to kind of watch out for them. I'm not sure that Aston Villa away is a brilliant fixture anyway. But then after that, they do have some pretty good fixtures. So hopefully they'll demonstrate their worth in the next fixture.
Before we move on to look at our teams as well, we've got a couple of things just to mention. We're going to come to your differential in a sec, as well as, and I think Simon, you have one as well. I just want to mention that you can sign up to Football Index today and take advantage of the 7-day £500 money back guarantee. There's a link in the description below to sign up, as well as a link to check out the full terms and conditions. This is for 18 plus only. Please gamble responsibly. You can check out begambleaware.org. There's a link for this in the description as well. Let's move on to differential. Who have you got?
Yeah, well, I've gone for a Wolves player because we've been talking about them so much. And I've gone for the 5.5 midfielder who played up front and got an assist. So Podence, is that how you pronounce it? Podence, whatever it is. Yeah, I mean, when you've got a 5.5 midfielder playing out of position for a team like Wolves, then I think it's not a bad person to go for. I mean, obviously he's at risk because you've got Jota there, you've got Traore who could play up front. He isn't sort of nailed on as such in that position. But whenever I've seen him play, he looks electric. He looks really, really sharp. And talking to a few friends of mine who are Wolves fan, they absolutely love him. Like, they think he's like kind of, the future of that team. He's going to have a massive impact. He's going to be, one of the best players in the world. I mean, they're a little bit biased, but the general feeling around is really, really positive for him. And if he can actually get a good run of games in the side, with those amazing fixtures, then I think he could be an absolute steal at 5.5. So he's my pick.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of competition in that 5.5. So after game week 2, let's see how St Maximin does, because he is well owned, and so there will be people. Now this, you probably spotted a bit of a trend here actually. Game week 3, Wolves fixtures become great. Same price as St Maximin. If he does nothing against Brighton, people will have had it enough, and they'll probably spend a hit to do it. So yeah, that could be the move people make. It just would seem sensible. Will he start? I don't know, but that's why he's a differential. That's why he's in there. Now, Simon, before we came on air, you mentioned a differential player. So who is this player that you want?
Yeah, I've gone for Lacazette, who is currently owned by about 4.5% of players. He's got West Ham United at home, Liverpool away, Sheffield United at home, and then Man City away. So yeah, a real mix of fixtures. The home games though are really quite strong, I think. And then I think sometimes, for these bigger teams, actually, playing a team like Liverpool or Man City isn't necessarily a bad thing for a striker, because they tend to get more space. They tend to as opposed to players like maybe Sheffield United who will sit deep and stifle them. Maybe they still have an opportunity to score there. So I think the combination of those fixtures, the fact that he's only 8.5 million as well, he's scored already, and I think he could emerge as a bit of a differential.
Well, yeah, I think so, because also if you think that Arsenal are still going to get results in their tricky games coming up, which are they go from easy, they're in at the moment, to tricky to okay, and you don't want to invest that 12 million in Aubameyang, then the likes of Willian and the likes of Lacazette become value players.
Oh, he's pricey though, isn't he? 8.5 for Lacazette.
I don't know. It's a good price, because I think of that in terms of like what you got, who can you get in, how can you get rid of him. Lacazette is easy to get out. You can run away from a Lacazette.
Isn't the danger with Lacazette though that Arteta likes strikers that compress? And against Fulham and West Ham, he probably doesn't need that so much. But against the tougher teams, Nketiah is going to come in and run around and be a busy little bee like he always is. So I'd be more worried, I think, about Lacazette's minutes against.
Could be. But then we've seen with Aubameyang and Lacazette in the past. I know this was pre-Arteta, but I don't mind seeing them as a sub. I mean, if I captained Aubameyang and see him as a sub against West Ham, I'm not going to be too happy. I'm not going to worry as much as I would be at another player, because we've seen the likes of Aubameyang and Lacazette score from half a match. So, yeah.
Well, I think his points per minute. I mean, that is the problem with Lacazette. Is he nailed on? Yeah, probably not. But his points per minute are almost identical, I think, to Aubameyang's, which is extraordinary, really, when you think how highly rated Aubameyang is.
I can't believe we're talking about Lacazette.
That's what it comes down to. Scrape the barrel.
Well, that's why it's a differential.
That's too much. Just one mention. One Lacazette, you never go Lacazette. One mention for a 5.7% owned player who I was going to have, but obviously is a bit higher than our threshold. But 5.7% Marcus Rashford. I think people are flocking to Martial and Bruno. I honestly think Rashford at 5.7% owned is an absolute bug. If you've got Son and 0.5 in the bank, I would be making that move straight away.
Okay, good tip. Let's move on to our teams. So I've loaded my picture up first, so I'm going to go first. So I am going back to my favoured Dullard 3-4-3. Ryan in goal, Robertson, Alexander-Arnold, the double pivots of the Liverpool defence of doom. But I'm quite happy with Robertson at the moment getting an assist, and I do like the fact he's looking much more attacking at the moment. I've got Dyer, and then in my 4 I've got Souček. I'm going to play against Arsenal because I think he's going to nick me a few attacking points here and there. Aubameyang captain against West Ham, we've spoken about that before. Salah I've got at the moment, but he may move, and St Maximin on borrowed time, but it's a home game against Brighton, so he's got to stay. Martial is in off my bench. Shea Adams, once again, I'm happy to stick with him for a few game weeks. Let's see. And Werner.
You must be happy you didn't go with Adams and Mitrovic, Joe. I
was very happy because I told you it was Souček. The Souček not being in quarantine meant it meant I was able to get Martial, and it means I didn't have to have Ali and Mitrovic. So yeah, I was very pleased about that. Yeah, and on my bench I've got Walton, Basuma, Mitchell, or Michiel as he was earlier in the Scoutcast, and Walker Peters. I'm hoping to get nothing from that lot, and I'll be very annoyed if this is what a Walker Peters clean sheet assist and I'll miss out. The positioning is a bit wrong now. I'm probably going to put Walker Peters as my first sub, by the way. I just didn't have time to change that. So yeah, the main change is Salah to Fernandes, possibly.
Wow.
But I don't have to.
Exciting.
Yeah. Because I just like the options it frees up. I like the look of it. I like, as I mentioned about Simon's team, I like to be able to spread that money around and have multiple players who could score me points. And I feel a bit constricted at the moment, which is why I wanted to get Martial in. I feel a bit constricted with Aubameyang and Salah's 24 million between them sitting there. I like to spread that out a tiny bit. But yeah, let's move on to your team. For the benefit of those listening on the podcast, you've got Ryan, Alexander-Arnold, Davis, Walker Peters and Vinagre in a 4-4-2 with Salah, Aubameyang captain, Havertz, Pereira, Werner, and you've already made a move. Ings out, Martial, who's your vice captain. Yeah, I mean, that's going to stay? No more hits, nothing like that?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a hit as well, I think. I mean, if you look at my front six, I think they're all okay. I mean, Pereira was disappointing. I thought he could. I thought West Brom would trouble Leicester more, with a bit of a makeshift defence. So I was really disappointed with them. They were great for about 20 minutes and then just completely went off it. And they've got Everton away and Chelsea at home next. So Pereira's, I'm not expecting massive things from him, but he can stay for a bit. I mean, my defence is a worry. I didn't want a Southampton defender, and they looked really suspect. I mean, Walker Peters though, his positioning is just absolutely outrageous. He's just right wing. He could have had 2 assists in that game, and suddenly he's looking a lot better. So, I'm not too unhappy to have him, but he probably wouldn't be one that I'd picked if I was going to pick again. My issues now, though, are Ben Davies, who's actually third on the ICT threat meter out of all defenders. So it was Says first, and then Van Dijk, and then Ben Davies. So people saying that he doesn't attack much. He created 2 chances. He was getting forward. He had 2 penalty area touches. I thought he looked like pretty okay. So I'm happy with him. But it looks like they're signing this Regulian guy. That's definitely not the right pronunciation, which obviously is a huge problem.
Guy, did you just say?
Reguli's guy. Because if the best thing about Ben Davies was absolutely no competition, and if they're suddenly getting some competition in, then he's less of a pick. And so suddenly I'm looking at my defence and thinking I didn't want to make any defensive changes, and I'm having to, looking at taking out Ben Davies. I'm not happy with Walker Peters. Mitchell could be out of the team soon. Vinagre's got to go. I mean, this is the problem. I can't lose. If I lose 0.1 on Vinagre, his price is dropping rapidly. If I lose 0.1 on him, then I can't do a straight switch of him to another 4.5, and there's no 4 million defenders.
Drop, isn't it, at this stage of the
season? I know, it's awful. So I think I just need to take the hit, and he needs to go. I'd be looking at Eiling of Leeds. They've got Fulham at home next, so and Wolves have City anyway. So you could argue I could get that paid back straight away. Or I'm looking at Charlie Taylor, who I think is a really, really good price at 4.5 to tap into that Burnley defence. So there will be a hit. Vinagre will be going. It'll be Charlie Taylor or Eiling coming in.
Okay. Awesome chat tonight, lads. Nistel Percy. That team screams wild card.
Yeah, that's just mean, isn't it? There's no need for that. He got 60. He got over 60 points. It's fine.
That's right. You tell him. You don't know what he's talking. This Nistel Percy. You don't know what you're talking about, mate. Okay. Right. Let's move on to your team, Simon. You are like this 3-4-3. There we go. McCarthy, Alexander-Arnold, Cody, Davis, and then your 4 is Barnes, Havertz, Aubameyang captain, and then Son, and up front you've got Werner, Ings, your vice captain, Wilson. Nice, as we said, a spread there. Unlikely you're going to make a move. You're going to go into game week 3 with 2 free transfers, hopefully, or
yeah, it's one of those game weeks where I could do nothing at all, or I could wildcard. And
I love those weeks.
and I really haven't decided yet, because I don't want to put too much emphasis on one game week, especially when there were good signs from the team, and also I look at it and I think, okay, I've got a few players there that could probably do quite well this week. particularly in the front line. I think I have noticed though that pretty much all my players are playing each other, defense and attack. Oh. So that is very poor organisation on my part. But I think most likely I'm probably going to give it another week, because I think much as there are players that I really like and that I want to get in, I think as says, Davies is probably a transfer waiting to happen. And if I can downgrade him to a 4.5, then I can upgrade Barnes to Rodriguez, and still have the various kind of price points in Havertz and Son, and maybe Aubameyang, to maybe do something a bit more exciting around the likes of De Bruyne and Fernandes. So I'm probably not going to do anything.
No,
but
there's a lot of unanswered questions at the moment. We think we got a handle on some of them, but Spurs, Gareth Bale rejoining them perhaps. How's that going to work out? Which Manchester United is going to turn up? How we can only assume City are going to be great, but they might not be. Chelsea as well will have it, be the man. There's going to be lots for us to discuss in future videos and podcasts, definitely on the Scoutcast next week. We'll have loads more information. But before we go, I just wanted to mention the members area as well. So obviously tons of Opta-driven data there. So if you're a stats kind of person, we'll be reading out quite a few during the Scoutcast. There's quite a few there, so you can get tucked in there. The goals imminent table, I always give that a plug. But be warned, I'm not going to get that sort of prepped up until game week 5. So I like to have 4 weeks worth of data. I might give it a kind of a tease at game week 2, but game week 4 is when I really want to go really to town on it, really take it out to dinner and stuff like that. But I might tease it a bit before. Before I witter on too much, I'm just going to say it's a goodbye from me.
Good night.
Good night.
Goodbye all.